Today, we're stepping through the portal into one of fantasy's most beloved subgenres, portal fantasy. A child stumbles into a hidden world through a wardrobe. A teenager discovers that stepping through a mirror leads to another realm. A scientist's experiment goes wrong, opening a gateway to a dimension filled with horrors. Portal fantasy is all about transportation, moving from our world to another, whether it's through a mystical gateway, an enchanted book, or even a scientific accident. It's a subgenre filled with wonder, danger, and the thrill of the unknown.
From classic literature to modern TV shows, video games, and movies, portal fantasy has remained a staple in the genre. The main goal of the subgenre is to make the audience ask the question, what lies beyond the door? Today, it's portal fantasy's turn to be explored. Let's break down what makes this subgenre unique, the tropes that define it, the themes that it often explores, and some iconic examples that shaped what it is today. So let's get to it.
Portal fantasy is about stepping into the unknown. A protagonist crosses the boundary between their familiar world and a fantastical realm, setting the stage for adventure, mystery, or even horror. Unlike high fantasy, where the world is self-contained and exists independently from our own, portal fantasy anchors itself in reality before shattering that sense of normalcy, revealing a hidden world that coexists with or exists parallel to ours.
Some portals can be accidental, dragging an unsuspecting character into a new world without warning. This can create a sense of disorientation because the protagonist is thrown into this new setting with no preparation at all. Other portals are deliberate, they offer a choice. The character decides if they want to cross it or to remain behind. So because of this, the stories often revolve around the themes of temptation, curiosity, or destiny, as the protagonist must decide if they want to take on the call to action and embrace the adventure, or stay within the safety of the world they know. How, if you think about it, the pill scene in the Matrix between the red pill and the blue pill could be seen as an example of portal fantasy, because Neo accesses a new world when he makes the decision to allow himself to do it. So even the nature of the portal itself can set the tone for the journey. A glowing door may invite wonder, while something like a cracked mirror may foreshadow something a little bit more sinister. One of the defining features of portal fantasy is the contrast between the protagonist's world and the new one they enter. Unlike isekai, where the protagonists often fully assimilate into their new setting, portal fantasy frequently plays with the tension between the two identities, two realities, and two conflicting set of roles. The protagonist is discovering a new world, but they are also fully aware of the one they left behind. And this creates a lot of interesting internal conflict for the character to explore.
In the Chronicles of Narnia, the Pevensey siblings go from wartime Britain to the mythical land of Narnia, where they not only discover talking animals and magic, but also take on new identities as rulers and warriors. Yet, Narnia doesn't erase their connection to home. Britain and their ordinary lives remain part of their identities, creating a push and pull between duty and belonging. In contrast, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland presents a dreamlike journey where Alice is thrown into a bizarre, nonsensical world filled with strange characters and illogical rules. Unlike Narnia, Wonderland doesn't feel like a place where Alice is meant to stay. It is temporary, fleeting, and surreal. It doesn't transform her in the same way. Instead, it challenges her perception of reality before she ultimately returns home. Coraline subverts the portal fantasy formula by presenting an other world that at first appears to be a perfect version of the protagonist's real life. Coraline's other mother offers her everything she thinks she wants, until she realizes that this world is an elaborate trap, designed to lure her into giving up her real identity. Here, the portal is not an escape to adventure, but a test of Coraline's self-awareness and resolve.
This contrast between the known and the unknown, home and adventure, reality and illusion, is what makes portal fantasy so compelling. The protagonist's journey, of course, it's going to be about how this new world influences them and how it puts the old world into perspective. It should challenge them and force them to make a choice. Some central questions we may ask in a portal fantasy setting is, can the protagonist return home? And if they can, should they? Some stories revolve around temporary visits, The portal is a doorway that can be used more than once, and the protagonist eventually returns to where they come from, often changed by the experience. If they decide to stay, these decisions should also be explored in the character's journey. These stories emphasize that the journey is a lesson, an adventure that informs their real life but does not replace it.
In The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy travels to the fantastical land of Oz but ultimately chooses to return home, realizing that there's no place like home. The adventure was meaningful, but it was never meant to be permanent. Other stories explore permanence, either by choice or by force. The portal closes or the protagonist makes a decision that ensures they will never return. These stories explore themes of belonging, identity, and sacrifice.
The best portal fantasy stories leave us with questions, wonder, and a lingering sense of magic, because deep down it's a very human thing to imagine what would happen if you found a door to another world. A lot of us may just step through. Now it's time to explore some tropes and themes of the subgenre. Let's explore the elements that actually define it from a thematic point of view.
Portal fantasy follows recurring tropes that shape the genre, allowing for endless variations in tone and style. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. One of the biggest appeals of portal fantasy is that it starts in the real world, our world. The protagonist is usually a normal person living an ordinary life before they stumble upon something that changes everything. Maybe it's a hidden door in an old house, a book that transports them into its pages, or a scientific experiment gone wrong. This moment, the crossing from reality into fantasy, is one of the most exciting parts of the genre. It taps into that childhood dream that magic could be just around the corner. For example, Harry Potter doesn't realize he's a wizard until he gets his letter to Hogwarts, revealing a hidden magical world alongside the real one. The portal as a threshold. The portal itself is often symbolic, a doorway that represents change, choice, and transformation.
It can be a physical gateway, like a wardrobe or a rabbit hole, or something more abstract, like falling into a book or being summoned to another world. The nature of the portal can also set the tone for your adventure, of course. A mysterious glowing archway suggests adventure. A cracked mirror leading to a distorted reflection of reality hints at something scarier and more sinister. Or, for example, a door that only appears at a specific time of day may hint at rules that this magic world has that could be beyond human understanding.
For example, in Stardust, a hidden gap in a wall leads to a magical kingdom, separating the mundane from the mystical. The rule of return or no return. Some portal fantasies focus on temporary journeys, where the protagonist returns home changed by their experiences. Other stories make the journey permanent, either by choice or because the portal is closed forever. A major theme in portal fantasy is the struggle between worlds. Should the protagonist return home, or have they found where they truly belong? In Narnia, the Pevensey children eventually lose access to Narnia, making their time there feel like a fleeting dream. In Pan's Labyrinth, the idea of whether the protagonist ever truly returns is left to interpretation. The best portal fantasy stories leave us questioning, if you could stay, would you? Parallel worlds and hidden realms. Not every portal fantasy takes the protagonist to a completely different world. Some stories present parallel worlds existing alongside our own but hidden from ordinary sight. Example, His Dark Materials features multiple worlds layered on top of each other, connected by the mysterious substance known as dust.
These parallel worlds, they often explore themes of perception, reality, and even what it means to the protagonist to belong here or there. In the best cases, this new world should mirror aspects of our own reality and make us reflect about it. The best portal fantasy stories use the fantasy secret world as a way to make us think about our own. So now let's go over some iconic examples of the subgenre.
Portal fantasy has shaped some of the most influential fantasy stories across literature, film, and television. One of the most famous and foundational examples of portal fantasy, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, introduces the Pevensey children to Narnia through a magical wardrobe. However, Narnia is not just a world of adventure. It's a place of prophecy, war, and deep moral and spiritual lessons. The passage of time works differently there. With years passing in Narnia, while mere moments elapse in the real world. The children, particularly Lucy and Edmund, undergo profound transformation, learning about bravery, sacrifice, and the weight of destiny. The Narnia series plays with the idea that childhood wonder is fleeting, and the portal is not always open to those who try to return. By the end of the series, some characters are no longer allowed to return to Narnia, reinforcing the bittersweet notion that once we grow up, we can't always go back to the magic of youth. BioShock Infinite. Unlike many fantasy-based Portal stories, BioShock Infinite uses the concept of dimensional rift to explore sci-fi and multiverse themes within a steampunk-inspired city in the sky. Elizabeth, one of the main characters, has the ability to open portals to alternate reality, allowing glimpses into worlds where history has played out differently. These moments of stepping between dimensions serve as a darker take on Portal fantasy, where instead of whimsical adventure, the journey reveals how small changes can have enormous, often horrifying consequences. Alice's journey through the rabbit hole into Wonderland is one of the most surreal and dreamlike examples of Portal fantasy. Unlike traditional Portal fantasies, Alice doesn't embark on a grand quest or fulfill a prophecy. She simply experiences Wonderland as an absurd, nonsensical place that challenges her perception of reality. The world is constantly shifting, with strange creatures, illogical conversations, and rules that make no sense. The Mad Hatter's Tea Party, the Queen of Hearts' chaotic court, and the ever-changing size of Alice herself create a sense of instability and disorientation. Wonderland feels more like a puzzle to be solved rather than a kingdom to be explored, making it one of the most unique examples of the subgenre. The story is often interpreted as an allegory for navigating the confusing, unpredictable world of adulthood, a contrast to Narnia, which presents a more structured and morally defined magical world. One of the most interesting science fiction takes on Portal fantasy. Stargate replaces magic with technology, but the core idea remains the same. A gateway exists between worlds, and those who step through it encounter new civilization, new conflict, and new challenges to their identity and understanding of reality. The Stargate itself is an ancient wormhole device that allows near instantaneous travel between different planets. Unlike traditional Portal fantasies, the protagonists in Stargate don't just stumble upon another world. They are trained explorers, soldiers, and scientists who navigate the unknown with purpose. The series explores diplomacy, war, and cultural exchange. Characters frequently interact with aliens, some advanced, others deeply rooted in mythology, resembling ancient Earth civilization. While the return journey is always possible, each mission through the Stargate leaves a mark on the character, forcing them to grow, adapt, and question their assumptions about power, ethics, and humanity's place in the universe. Unlike Narnia or Alice in Wonderland, where the protagonist is often an outsider in a fantastical world, Stargate presents the portal as a tool for ongoing exploration, shifting the focus from self-discovery to understanding the unknown on a grander scale. One of the darkest and most complex takes on Portal fantasy, Pan's Labyrinth blurs the line between fantasy and harsh reality. Set during the Spanish Civil War, the film follows Ophelia, a young girl who discovers an ancient labyrinth and a mysterious faun who tells her she is the reincarnation of a lost princess from another realm. However, unlike traditional Portal fantasy stories where the new world offers adventure or escape, Pan's Labyrinth presents a tragic, ambiguous interpretation of Portal fantasy, one where the fantasy world might not be real at all. Ophelia's journey is filled with tests and dangers, mirroring the horrors she faces in the real world, particularly from her cruel stepfather, Captain Vidal. The film never fully confirms whether Ophelia truly enters a magical world or if it is a psychological coping mechanism, making it one of the most haunting examples of the genre. Is the portal an escape, a test, or is it simply a child's way of processing the violence and brutality around her? The film leaves that question unanswered, but it reinforces a key theme in Portal fantasy: the idea that the world beyond the portal reveals something deeper about the protagonist's reality, whether or not it is real in a literal sense.
As you can see, these stories, they explore the versatility of Portal fantasy. So the concept of crossing into another world can take many forms. You can have whimsical adventures or psychological horror, and even some science fiction exploration. So here we have the high fantasy of Narnia, the surreal absurdity of Wonderland, the diplomatic sci-fi missions of Stargate, or the dark allegory of Pan's Labyrinth. Portal fantasy taps into our deep curiosity about the unknown, and each journey through a portal could represent transformation, forcing the characters to deal with new realities, question their own identities, and finally decide where they truly belong.
Portal fantasy is more than just a way to transport characters from one place to another. It's a metaphor for transformation, self-discovery, and the clash between the familiar and the unknown. Whether the journey is whimsical, dangerous, or bittersweet, these stories tap into our longing for adventure, our fear of the unexplored, and our fascination with worlds beyond our reach. At their core, the best Portal fantasies don't just ask, what lies beyond the door? They ask, what does stepping through it reveal about ourselves?
So that's it for the video today. Let me know in the comments what you think about Portal fantasy, if you have any iconic examples in mind. And if you want to go deeper, feel free to join our free Discord server. It's called Loregeist Tavern, and you can discuss fantasy and world building there with like-minded people. Find the link to that in the channel's page, and see you next time.
Come join our Tavern discussion of fantasy storytelling and world building here at Loregeist. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Thanks for watching, and may your tales be ever epic.